Hi, my name's Emily Cooper, and today I'm going to be book talking 8 different books from different cultures that have great multicultural representation. Without hesitating too much, I just want to jump right in. The first book that I'm going to be talking about is Josephine, The Dazzling Life of Josephine Baker by Patricia Hruby Powell. This book was published by Chronicle Books in 2014, and if you have this vision in your mind of flappers and just the jazz era and dancing, this is essentially the illustrations that you're going to get from this beautiful illustrated memoir of Josephine Baker's life. The beauty of this children's picture book shows the life of Josephine Baker as she danced her way through history and made an impact by being an African American woman who became famous for dancing and wearing elaborate costumes. And she just made a huge name for herself in a time where it was quite unexpected for African American women to do so. And Josephine was from St. Louis, Missouri, and she grew up in the early 20th century when she was seeing race riots and segregation, and she joined a traveling performance group, and from there she was a standout performer. And she eventually moved to Paris, where she became famous, and she was an advocate for desegregated life, and she adopted a bunch of children from many cultures, and she volunteered with the Red Cross, and just lived a very elaborate life, making herself known and just making a huge impact. And this is why Josephine, The Dazzling Life of Josephine Baker, is a beautiful and impactful children's book for all audiences to enjoy. The next book that I want to talk about is Lowriders to the Center of the Earth by Cathy. This book was also published by Chronicle Books in 2016. Picture you and your 2 best friends going on a road trip, and not just any road trip, but a very important road trip to rescue your pet cat. This is what takes place in the book. And in fact, it's a graphic novel, and the illustrations are gorgeous, and they depict Hispanic culture beautifully. And the cool thing about the illustrations is that the color scheme only includes 4 colors: red, blue, green, and black. And the way that the illustrator is able to portray these beautiful images through just those 4 colors is astonishing. So what happens in Lowriders to the Center of the Earth is that 3 best friends find that their cat goes missing, so they have to go on an adventure to rescue him. Well, along the way, they run into several Aztec gods, and these gods cause problems for them and make them go on a very roundabout journey in order to find their cat, who may not be who the 3 friends think he is. This graphic novel has a great incorporation of Spanish and uses Spanish and English interchangeably. There is an asterisk used to denote that there's a definition down at the bottom, and it's really helpful to see the definitions for the Spanish words for people who may not know what they mean, but it's great for those who do know Spanish and get to have that incorporation into the book. The next book I'd like to talk about is Jingle Dancer by Cynthia Leitich Smith, and this is published by William Morrow in 2000. The main character of Jingle Dancer's name is Jenna, and she's from the Muskogee Creek Nation, and she is searching for jingles for her dress so that she can dance in the next powwow. So she has to go and visit women throughout her neighborhood, whether it be neighbors, her cousin, her grandmother, and various other peoples of her family and friends, ask them to borrow jingles for her dress so that she can dance in the next powwow. This book beautifully portrays a contemporary Native American and shows that Native Americans are not just part of history, that they do live in contemporary society, and the illustrations are beautifully colored, show great representation of Native Americans, both in their contemporary wear and in their traditional tribal wear. This next book really hits on the nose with some social issues that have been occurring in our society recently, and this book is Ghost Boys by Jewell Rhodes. It was published by Little Brown Books in 2018. Jerome is a 12-year-old boy who is just playing one day with a fake gun that he gets with his friends when a white police officer wrongly shoots and kills Jerome. Jerome does not pass on, but his ghost stays in the city where he was killed, and he witnesses his family's grief, the trial, and the aftermath. But not only does Jerome stick around, but also ghosts of other boys who were wrongfully murdered. Jerome has to deal with his own grief and deal with his own inner turmoil about not getting the justice that he deserves and learning from the other wrongfully murdered ghost boys. This book is a great commentary on police brutality, racial profiling, the justice system, and many other topics that are relevant in today's society. Some of the other boys that are included in the book are Trayvon Martin, though it's not said by name, and the main ghost boy, aside from Jerome, is the ghost of Emmett Till, who was murdered in the 1950s. Though it seems like a sad theme, and it is, it also provides a hopeful message about empowerment and taking the steps necessary to provide the right justice for those who deserve it. The next book that I would like to talk about is Ivy Aberdeen's Letters to the World by Ashley Herring Blake. This book was published by Little Brown Books in 2018, and it follows Ivy Aberdeen, whose family's home is destroyed in a tornado, and all that Ivy is able to salvage is her notebook. And in her notebook is drawings that she wants to keep secret because there are pictures of her drawn holding hands with another girl, and Ivy's just not sure what that means. So over the course of the book, Ivy's questioning her sexuality and also learning to discover herself, accept herself, and understand her place in her family and with friends, and just what to do after the effects of the tornado. Ivy uses drawing as a form of escapism and uses that as a way to express herself as well. People find ways to escape in many formats, including reading, music, video games, and possibly, like Ivy, drawing. This book deals with self-discovery, like I mentioned, but also heartache, friendship, and it has a hopeful message about learning to love who you are and being okay with not knowing for sure how to define yourself, and learning that you can keep growing and keep learning things about yourself as you get older. Have you ever read a book where the entirety of it takes place over one single day? Well, if you haven't, and that sounds interesting to you, you might want to try Long Way Down by Jason Reynolds. This book was published by Athenaeum in 2017. This book tells the story of Will, who wants to get revenge for his brother's death that was likely caused by gang violence. At 15, Will has grown up knowing that the rules of his city are all that matter, and those are closely related to the gangs and the violence that occurs. And when Will's older brother gets shot and killed by who he thinks is another gang member, he decides that he's going to take revenge and kill whoever killed his brother. The majority of this book takes place in an elevator ride over just the span of a few minutes. And as Will rides this elevator down on his way to take revenge, The ghosts of people who were or could have been impactful in his life appear to him and help him decide what the right decision about this revenge plot is. Will doesn't know what to think when he encounters the ghosts of these people, and they are giving him advice and giving him seconds or minutes of time that he didn't get to spend with them, or time that was cut short from them that Will is now getting to use in order to make his decision. This is a powerful book about deciding what is wrong and right, even when something that you've been told forever, for as long as you've been alive, is the right thing, and you decide that that may not be the truth. In another example of a book where a character uses something to escape from their reality is The Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo. This book was published by Aberdeen in 2018, and it follows Xiomara, who is a teen girl that is struggling with her body, struggling with her relationship with her mother, and struggling with what she believes in terms of religion. And Xiomara has a very mature body for her age, and so she's constantly getting hit on by men, constantly being berated by her mother, and she's tired of it because she wants to love her body, but she's just struggling with that ability when so many factors are against her. And she's also struggling with religion because she grew up in a very Catholic household. Her mother is very Catholic, but Xiomara is feeling very wronged, and so she doesn't know that she believes in God. Xiomara is from a Dominican family, so this factors into her mom's religion and the way that she was raised, and it also factors into her body and how people react to her. And like I mentioned, Xiomara uses poetry as a form of escapism, and one of her teachers convinces her to join a poetry club where she gets to perform slam poetry and learns how to express herself and show her true colors and just kind of discover who she really is. This book has great discussions of the expectations of women, deciding what you want to believe in, even if it's different from what your family believes in or what you've been told your entire life, and learning to just accept yourself and love yourself for who you are. The final book that I would like to recommend to you is Darius the Great is Not Okay by Adib Khorram. This book was published in 2018 from Dial Books, and it follows Darius, who is a teen who constantly gets bullied at school because he's overweight and he is Persian American, and so people end up calling him things like terrorist and just being really awful to him. And one day, Darius and his family find out that his grandfather has a brain tumor and he's not going to recover for it. So the family takes a trip to Iran, where Darius and his younger sister have never visited before, and that's where his mom and her family are from. The majority of this book is Darius struggling to understand the balance between his American life and his Persian life, and wanting to know how to combine them, learn about his culture, and learn how to accept himself, especially when he's also dealing with major depression, and he gets that from his dad, and so he and his dad have a tense relationship, because his dad feels really bad that Darius inherited the depression from him. And Darius gets to spend a lot of time in Iran making a friend and learning about his culture and learning to accept that he is different, but that's okay, and he will continue to learn more, grow more, and just be able to understand that with his depression, it's okay to not be okay, and some days will be harder than others, but if you keep pushing forward and just go take it one day at a time, then you will eventually make it through it. And I think that we can all relate to that. I think we can all, recognize when we have a bad day that sometimes it just feels like you can't overcome that. But if you just keep taking it one day at a time, you'll be able to get to the next day and start over new. All right, so I hope you guys are interested in checking these books out. I loved each and every one of these books, and I'm so happy that I was able to recommend them to you. And if you want, you can check out my blog and read the full multicultural aspects and reviews of these books at recognizingrepresentation.blogspot.com. Thank you guys so much for watching. Bye.